Welcome everybody to the 2021 TAG Georgia Technology Summit. My name is Ken Meyer. I am an EVP and Divisional CIO for Channel Engineering and Innovation at Truist. And today I am really excited to not talk about banking. We're going to talk about how sports are being reinvented through technology. And we've got some really great guests today that are going to help us unpack just how technology is ultimately impacting you as a fan of sports, as well as the institutions and organizations themselves. So first, let me introduce Ken Martin of Cisco. Ken is the Managing Director of Global Sales for Sports and Entertainment. Ken, welcome, and why don't you give us a little bit of background about what you do every day there at Cisco?
Thanks, Ken. And that won't be confusing that we go back and forth with Ken, but yeah, 16 years at Cisco, and 14 of those have been really focused in on leading this industry globally. So my team is designed to be an overlay to 18,000 salespeople here at Cisco and really come with the industry expertise. So our focus is on working with large public venues, and often those are referred to as sport and entertainment venues. But we've seen a lot of transitions in this industry that we'll get into today. Excited to share with what we've learned and what we see moving forward.
Awesome. And we also have Brian Gorney with us from Verizon. He is the Managing Director of Enterprise Sales with a focus on pro sports. Brian, welcome. How about you give us a little bit of intro for yourself as well?
Hey, thanks, Ken. Yeah, excited to be here. So based in Atlanta, I've been with Verizon for a number of years and have responsibility for commercial enterprise sales across the Eastern US, and then a carve out of that, a specific subset focus on pro sports and venues. So for us, that's a focus around leveraging the platforms and the technology that Verizon has made investments in to drive fan experiences and outcomes for the teams and the leagues as well. So excited to be here and look forward to the conversation today.
Awesome. So why don't we dive right in? Brian, you just talked about investments. So why don't we talk about just broader VC sports tech investments? If you look at recent numbers, we're projected to hit nearly $30 billion in investments by 2024. What do you personally think is driving this influx of investments?
Yeah, great question, Ken. So I think it's a few things, especially post-pandemic, right? And in this world of social media and on-demand entertainment, the leagues and the teams, just like any other business, right? They're looking for ways to connect more deeply, create more unique experiences with us as consumers and fans. And I think a couple of different ways they're doing that. One, of course, is by leveraging more and better data, right? So they're making investments in areas like analytics, whether that comes off of Wi-Fi or a team or a league-based app, so that they can better market their service games and teams and merchandise, et cetera, to us. So that's one area. I think a couple of others, innovation in broadcasting, 4K and 8K streaming is a big thing, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, throughout the conversation. And then lastly, certainly a big one, sports and betting. I think there's 14 states now that are active, another 8 who are approved and working towards enabling, and another half dozen or so who are in that process. So those are some of the things that we see driving the investment overall.
Ken, want to comment on that from your perspective as well?
Yeah, I echo with what Brian says. I mean, look, sports media rights is always going to be the top moneymaker. It's a $14 billion business in North America alone, $21 billion globally, and that's expected to rise 75% in the next 5 years. So, but it's really the media experience has changed so dramatically, over the last 50 years, even the last 10 years. So how do you capitalize on that? And it's really, bringing the world together through new media experiences, how to engage in the new fan. and we'll dive in more into this, but it's really focused around the fan consumes sports differently. They consume entertainment differently. And it's up to these venues to really understand how to capture that. Sports fans don't want to go and watch the game anymore. They want to do the game, right? They want to be immersed. They want to, share their experiences with others, whether through gamification, in sport betting, all of that comes into play here. But the broadcast is a big piece of that, and it'll continue to evolve over the next several years.
So we will touch a little bit about fan experience, but given this is a tech summit, let's maybe dive into a little bit of the technology itself. And you guys covered a wide variety of technologies and kind of where the investments are being made. But when you get to brass tacks and you look at the technology that's supporting this stuff, what are some of those technologies that you think are making that biggest impact, and really why ultimately? And maybe Ken, we'll stay with you first.
Well, I think that, what we've seen, develop over the years is ways in which you can communicate to the guest that is in your venue. And the way you communicate is obviously through the phone that everybody is carrying around in their pocket. So connectivity is going to be key. And now, the new, way in which we go to these venues, with safety and security being, top of mind, it's through that connectivity through the mobile device, and connectivity, that layer. Brian and Verizon is key on, delivering 5G. It's Wi-Fi 6. It's the throughput that the connectivity offers today. Is second to none. And so, what you don't want to have to worry about is somebody battling with, throughput and connectivity, and, can I upload my images, download my, videos, an app to get into the venue through ticketless entry, show my credentials, whatever. You don't want to worry about having the limitation of that connectivity slow you down. So we'll see it more and more. And then, the throughput is key. If we're talking about real-time gaming, and, sports bet and, whatnot, you can't have a delay on that mobile experience. So I think that is key to everything that we do, venue related moving forward. And I also believe that, the media platform will play a significant role in that as well. So it's not just through the mobile device, but it's, let's get everybody's heads up and let's talk about the media canvas, if you will, and how you monetize that, and how sponsors activate their brands, and how you're advertising to your guests that walk into the venue. I think that those will play an important role. So if you see those two technologies emerging, coming together as a single pane of glass, that's what we've been focused on, for the last several years. And I think that it'll just continue to develop.
Yeah, Brian, I will tell you, Ken's comments about the real time resonate for sure as a fantasy football player who is frantically refreshing my phone to make sure that I see every update every minute during our championship week. But Brian, any additional things you want to add there?
Yeah, hey Ken, hopefully that fantasy is sports is on Yahoo. Just call that out real quick, a quick plug. But I think everything that Ken said, real time is certainly a key focus from a technology perspective. I've been exposed, there was something recently that I've been exposed to called LiDAR, which is light detection and ranging. So think about combining this kind of light sensing capability with AI. It gives venues themselves, right, the ability to manage, traffic patterns, traffic congestion, improve wayfinding, those types of things. So I think it's all the things that Ken mentioned in and around media and real time and betting as well. And we at Verizon see ourselves as an enabler of those real-time experiences and real-time technologies through things like 5G, edge compute, and some of the other points that I'm sure we'll get into a little bit here through the conversation today.
Yeah. So let's shift a little bit to that fan piece of it, right? And I know when we talk about our business at Truist, we're always talking about, putting the client at the center of what we do and really understanding what our clients' needs are and how we can better that experience. When you think about fan engagement, both in venue as well as from anywhere that they're at, how are you seeing organizations leverage technology to really enhance that overall fan experience? And Brian, let's go with you first.
Yeah, so I would just to pile on the prior comments, right? A lot of investment, both in terms of the in-venue experience, but also the time, during, before and after the game, right? And kind of creating this continuous connection with the fan. We see, and some of this is work that we do with Ken and the team at Cisco. We see a lot of investment in enhanced Wi-Fi and analytics systems in and around the venues themselves. For us, from a Verizon specific perspective, we'll have 5G deployed in right at 90 major venues in the US by the end of 2021. And there's some really cool stuff that'll come along with that. One key point there, of those 90 venues, and that number will obviously increase into 2022, we'll have edge compute capability enabled at about 75% of that number by the end of this year. So that just goes back to enabling those real-time experiences and allowing applications and content to be delivered or run on the edge. So those are some of the things that we're seeing from the interest in from the leagues and the teams themselves.
Ken, additional thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, we're often referred to, for obvious reasons, a technology company, but really we're in the enablement business. Enabling a better mobile experience, through the things that we just discussed, enabling a better overall experience, visually. We've worked with. It's not that we're just doing new venues, right? There's thousands of stadiums around the world that say, look, we need to continue to update our venue to compete with the in-home experience, even, right? And so a lot of that will be through the use of what content you send to a video wall or an LED that's wrapped around the front of the building. In Southern California, the newest stadium in SoFi, I mean, they're even putting broadcast on the roof for planes that fly over, so you can actually watch the game from the roof of SoFi. So we enable those types of experiences. And so, I know technology is the thing that's bringing everything together, but we focus on, what can we creatively do to a screen that that gets people excited about, consuming the game and making it an overall experience versus just taking in the match itself or, the concert itself. The experience should start from the moment you leave your home to go down to the venue. And so we're leveraging technology, not just our own. I know Yahoo Sports has been using, this time to find new ways to connect with their fans and their partners. And I think it's a wonderful time to be in the technology game, but it's through enablement of these experiences.
So you guys are both talking about just constantly enabling these amazing fan experiences with tech, but what's stopping us from just blowing the roof off of this thing and really kind of making it something just unimaginable from an experience perspective? Like what do you guys think is holding some of the technology maybe or other things back from really transforming the space? Ken, why don't you jump in first there?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. One, I think it's there's so many technologies that are coming at each one of these venues. It's hard to decide which platform to ride or what technology is the best. And we really need to act like consultants to help out the industry as a whole and kind of narrow down some of the choices. Because I don't think it's a lack of wanting to have technology. Everybody wants, cashless, payments. Everybody wants, somebody to be able to enter into the venue through an electronic ticket, and be able to change and move those tickets around easily, or upgrade their seats easily, type of thing. I think what's preventing a lot of, if we look at top tier professional sports, or, even universities, it's always that limitation of, I don't have the money to do it. Oh, I have a desire, but I don't have the money. So I believe that, we're going to have to find creative ways in which, people can, these universities, these, professional teams can consume technology. And so, even at Cisco, we're working on some ways in which we help with that. Not just, can I make a payment over time, but um, consumption models as, pay as a service, so I don't want to own the technology. I just want to use the technology, and allow me to pay for the technology as I use it, or as I consume it. I think it's the creativity around enabling people to bring on technology, and maybe it's creative financing that's going to help us through that.
And maybe you need great bank partners to help you enable some of those services. So we might be able to talk about that later. Brian, any additional comments there?
Yeah, I can hit a lot of key points. I'll just add probably a little bit of a blip or a bump in the road with the pandemic. So I know in a lot of cases, the leagues and the teams as well are watching very closely kind of fan behavior, if you will, as we come out of the pandemic or move into, post-pandemic life. As a quick example, we were speaking recently with the owner of a very large venue, 150,000 plus seats, and they're looking at, hey, are we ever going to be at a point where, for our particular sport and with our particular set of fans and prospective fans, are we going to ever put 150,000 fans in the seats at one time? And they're also looking at, is that number get smaller at some point, but it's more focused around that end-to-end experience that Ken mentioned, before, during, and after the game, and ultimately maybe that number of grandstands comes down a little bit. So I think we're just going to see a little bit of a shift between the in-venue focus and investment, and that end-to-end before, during, and after the game or the event itself.
Yeah, it's great. So, I mean, when people think of sports, they obviously think of a lot of dollars, right, in that ecosystem. But when you really think about sports technology, this is a multi-trillion-dollar ecosystem that we're talking about. And you guys talked about 5G. You talked a little bit about the rise of esports and real time and gambling. One thing we haven't talked about yet is around the whole digital collectibles trading and the usage of blockchain and other things there. But as these things continue to surface, and then you've got the deep tech around smart venues that you talked about. I mean, I didn't know about the whole SoFi and the screen on the roof of the building. That's pretty phenomenal, cool. And some of you talked about things like analytics and the overall safety and the in-game experience. But are there any of these areas that you look at and you go, man, this is really going to take off, right? More so maybe than some of the others. And I know that's a little bit of a crystal ball question, given that we're coming out of hopefully a pandemic situation, but anything that stands out maybe more so than others for either of you, and we'll start with Brian maybe on this one.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I'll just call out a couple of things that we've touched on, but we've probably used the phrase real time 10 or a dozen times at this point. I think the technology and the innovation that firms like Cisco and Verizon are bringing to bear, the gaming and the sports betting space is one in particular. If you think about the dynamics associated with in-game or in-event real-time sports betting, that's going to be something that really drives a lot of activity forward, especially as the state legislatures approve and put those wheels in motion. And then the other thing, and I mentioned, LiDAR is just a quick example. There are certainly many others, but I think in venue experience, but also health and safety, and leveraging various technologies to help the venue themselves manage crowd congestion, wayfinding, those types of things, and more investment around, the fan being able to consume that experience on the mobile device itself. So those are a few of the areas that we see ecosystem wise that are going to seem to be carrying forward with a significant amount of momentum.
Additional thoughts there, Ken?
Yeah, I agree. I think that, we're living in a virtual reality world anymore, where you want to be a part of the action. You don't want to go and, not all of us have the best seat in the house. And so you want to, technology to bring you into the feeling of the game. There's a lot of things that are happening right now, specifically through broadcast and analytics and real-time data done to the phone. But you think about AI experiences as well, and the ability to take a camera feed and from somebody like a ref or a player that's in the game, and being able to broadcast that feed and be able to watch it like you're on the field and see a 250-pound center back coming at you in real time. And being able to watch your favorite players, is say you're in a VIP or suite type of experience, and be able to just to track the players that you want to watch all time in real time. I think those are some of the experiences that we're working our way to. A lot of it feeds back to the broadcast, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different companies out there that are bringing us these real 360 views of the game, and it makes us feel as though we're a part of it, immersed in it. I think that's what's really cool to me, at least moving forward.
I even think about, if we just stay in the state for a second, the fact that, I think the Masters app is one of the most downloaded apps, and it only happens once a week.
All right.
You pretty much watch anything that you want at any point in time and follow what you want, right? Versus just watching the broadcast on the television. So pretty phenomenal immersion, if you use that even as a simple example. So let me be a fan a little bit, right? And just kind of to get excited here to see where are you all spending your time with different leagues and teams. You think about the relationships that you both have across, whether it's the leagues themselves or individual teams, but who are you spending time with, and what are they asking you to look at specifically? And maybe Ken, let's start with you.
For years, we've been trying to bridge that gap that exists between people in technology that exists in these venues, and the people that are in sales and marketing in these venues. And so, because we see that relationship becoming more and more important for everybody moving forward. For the game, the fan that goes to the game, to the sponsors that are spending a lot of money to market their brands in venues, and being able to kind of bridge the gap between those relationships, so that a sales campaign, let's try something different, let's push something down to the mobile device, let's advertise happy hour and dynamically change the pricing of what we offer to the menus and in the concessions. All of that is possible, but not everybody realizes how possible that truly is today. And it's actually leveraging technology. And so where, in years past, you go to somebody, a CRO didn't exist, but somebody in sales and marketing and ask what the relationship is with IT, and they wouldn't even know who the IT person is, right? So I think that organizationally, everybody's coming together and saying, okay, how do we leverage technology to improve revenue streams, or better just the overall experience inside the venue? If I think about even the people the companies that are spending money to market their brands, they're going to be measured differently as well. It's not just brand association that's going to pay the bills anymore. It's these CMOs that are associated with these companies are going to be measured on how effective their brand campaign is. And if the venue can't just turn back to these sponsors and say, this was this is effective in the first half of the game, or it was more effective in the second half, or how many people did we actually get down to the car dealership to take a test drive? That these CMOs are going to turn to a venue that can offer that up. So I think in general things are changing, the landscape's changing, but I think it's trying to bring everybody together is the key. That's a long-winded way to answer your question, Ken. But
oh, you're good. You're good. That's great, Brian. Additional thoughts there, and I've got a little bit of a follow-up question on that one, but keep going.
Yeah, I'll agree with things Ken said. That whole notion of and for us, and I think similar for Cisco, the sponsorship activation activity, that's a big focus for us. Specifically, Ken, with Verizon, we have public and official partnerships. I think we're the official 5G and wireless provider for the NFL, NHL, as well as NASCAR. A lot of within those relationships, there's different tenants, if you will. Some of that relates to broadcast rights that we leverage across our FiOS platform for those in the Northeast, and then Yahoo Sports as well, which we've mentioned a couple of different times. Yahoo Sports has a specific broadcasting relationship with the NBA as well. So we're pretty active with most of the major leagues and a number of the different teams in each of those leagues. In the case of NASCAR, a lot of work there just in around the tracks themselves, and working on some of the things that we've been talking about, enabling more real-time experiences. And the last quick comment, another area that's related to the teams and the leagues, I think, but just esports in general, right? So we've got some partnerships, probably more to come, but Riot Games and Epic, who, if you're familiar with Epic, they Fortnite and a few other big names out there. We've got some activity in that space as well.
So a shameless plug for the event for everybody to check out the NASCAR keynote. So Brian mentioned NASCAR a couple times, but just a quick follow-up question. I mean, I think what's really fascinating to me is that the amount of money that ultimately is being created with new revenue streams as a result of some of these technologies that are cycling and filtering their way back into the sports themselves. So when you really think about it, the introduction of technology in a way is potentially putting a more competitive and even better product on the field, because teams are getting increased salary caps and other types of things that is directly as a result of TV deals and sponsorships and other things that are benefiting the broader, organizations themselves. So, just curious, as you guys are working in this every day, and I know it's hard, even for us sometimes to take a step back out of what we're doing. Do you guys see the impact that the technology is making, just not on, on the tech and the experience or with the teams directly, but just a little bit broader on the product of what's being put on the fields and on the courts and ice and other things? Brian, maybe you could add there.
Yeah, so I think the answer is yes, and two specifics. One, I mean, you kind of mentioned it, but the in-game, we call it the competitive or team analytics, things like player puck tracking in the NHL, shot tracker, which is used somewhat widely across the NCAA. We see those things taking hold, and that even relates to fan experience. If you're watching the game on your device or on traditional broadcast, right, you take advantage of that. We just watched the Masters this past weekend, right, with the ball flight capability, of course. And then I would say broadly, Ken, and one thing that I've learned since I've started doing some work in this space, the investment and the technology in and around what we would call back of house, just the venue or the event operations. If you think about 50, 80, or 100,000 people coming in for a game day experience, and all the things associated with, parking, merchandising, finding amenities, you name it, the way that the venues and the leagues and the teams are using technology to organize and create a better kind kind of game day experience, not just the game itself, but all the amenities and peripherals is pretty fascinating stuff as well.
Yeah, you know, look, I think IoT will and sensors, you know, play an important role. You know, not just, you know, sensors in a ball to know, you know, the path flight, the sensors that they put on, you know, players to know, you know, are they peaking? What's their, you know, physical condition? I think this is good for players. I think this is good for coaches. I think it's good for ownership, right? It's you know, I remember 10 years ago, I was up in Vancouver, and Mr. Aquilini came off the ice, and, you know, for the Canucks, you know, wearing all these, he had sensors all over himself. And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, you know, I want to know, you know, my heart rate and how long I've skated and, you know, how's it changed? That obviously that technology has come a long way now, right? I mean, we're sensors embedded into the jerseys themselves, but it gives, you know, that real-time data, which, like I say, is important on the business side of things. You know, how is the athlete performing, and, you know, what are we doing? You know, theoretically, you can get that data if you wanted to, and I know there's rights that prevent this, but, you know, you can serve that data up to the guests as well, you know, to say, hey, look, you know, is this guy is about to take a PK? Is his heart rate up? Is it, you know, has it changed at all? I mean, people get into that, right? As a fan, we love the ability to consume that type of information. On the business side or on the venue side, I mean, look, we're putting sensors, you know, in you know, craziest things to make the venue more efficient. US Bank Stadium, you know, we're putting sensors on the kegs down in the bottom of the stadium simply because people were going down and changing the kegs before they needed to be changed. A lot of people don't know there's 60,000 gallons of, you know, of beer that are rolling through the lines of a, you know, of a stadium at all times. You know, do we have a leak? What's the, you know, the temperature of the, you know, of the beer? You know, all these wonderful things. We have access to all this data through IoT. What we do with the data is obviously important, but certainly having that data and being able to extract that data can change the experience across the board.
So Ken, you failed, my man. You weren't supposed to talk about US Bank Stadium. You're supposed to talk about Truist Park.
That's right.
But we can handle that later. It's not a big deal. But look, I think when we talk, coming back along to the venture side of things, right? So I know Brian, Verizon Ventures been very active in sports technology. You know, where do you guys see your investments going, and maybe some examples that you might be able to provide there?
Yeah, great question. So I'll just call out a couple of things. If, you know, for the Super Bowl earlier this year in Tampa, with 5G and some of the edge capabilities, we enabled some ecosystem partners around, and Ken mentioned a couple of these earlier, right? Accelerated fan access capability, crowd vision, you know, thermal scanning, a few other types of sort of venue related capabilities. So we're going to do more and make investments there. Verizon Ventures in particular, there are two that I'll call out. Shot Tracker is one I've mentioned previously. So there's an interest and a focus there in that technology and that firm specifically. And there's another one, YBVR, which is basically 4K and 8K 360 streaming capability, which is pretty cool stuff. So things like that connect to some of the capabilities that, you know, we can bring to bear through the assets we own and operate, are the types of things that, you know, I think you'll see. And then the partnership side, I mentioned Epic. Another Super Bowl related example for us was the virtual, the Fortnite 5G stadium, which was basically a virtual experience that we created in and around the Super Bowl this year. So those types of things, there's obviously, you know, the possibilities are somewhat endless and just a really exciting space to watch and be a part of.
I'm going to need you guys to get the 8K TV cost down a little bit somehow, because I'm in the market for one, and it's probably not in the cards this go around. Ken, any other comments around like ventures and investing in areas that you guys might be focused in?
Yeah, for us, it's, you know, nobody's building a stadium anymore. Everybody's building a small, smart city around a stadium. And so we're going to continue to focus in putting the intelligence into the network, so that you have one converged network. I mean, the network itself is becoming as important as water and energy and gas in a lot of these cases. There's the fourth utility. So you'll continue to see Cisco, because that is our bread and butter to build out the intelligence. What you plug into that, whether it be the connectivity through the mobile experience and 5G and our partnership with Verizon, or Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi 6, the analytics that you get out of that, or if you're plugging in IPTV, which is something that we've really been focused on for a decade plus, security, collaboration. But going forward, it's getting into these smart buildings. How do you take and leverage the network and power over Ethernet to drive down the cost of actually building a building, and leveraging and doing some things that you typically wouldn't see in a traditional way in which a building is constructed. So stay tuned there. It's really creative, things that Cisco is coming out with.
Ken, I was just going to say, we got a couple minutes left. What would be one thing that you just want to leave the audience with that you think is different or cool, or something that Cisco's pushing big time in this space, maybe?
I would say that it is leveraging the venue as a media platform. Your limitation is your creativity. We're doing everything from real-time stats to information, the ability to pull all these things together, but really look at your venue as a media platform. How can you get the most out of it? And I don't just mean the screens that are on the wall, but the screens that are in everybody's pocket. We're just going to continue to develop on that, and leveraging 4K and 8K in our broadcast video and everything that we're doing there to bring in some of these just really unique can't get at home experiences. I think that's where we'll continue to focus, and we'll continue to reinvent ourselves in this space.
All right, Brian, what about you and Verizon? Last word on the topic.
Yeah, I'll just quickly call out. I mean, it to Ken's point, for us, similarly, it's about enabling these real-time experiences. I'll mention the focus in and around 5G, and I think there's two things I'd call out there, right, from a venue perspective. Number one, there'll be more capability and examples there as more of us as fans and consumers get 5G devices and handsets, right, into our hands, so to speak. And lastly, just the edge compute and processing capability that just from and it's really not about the edge capability. It's about the application delivery. It's about the content distribution, and it's about that real-time experience. So I think those are the types of things that we'll continue to be involved in and enable across the spectrum that we're talking to here.
Yeah, Ken, I think that.
Go ahead, Ken.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, we just announced a partnership with the NFL yesterday, and I know that Brian and Verizon have been a partner of the NFL for quite some time. The intent here is not to work in parallel paths. The intent is to leverage what Cisco does and what Verizon does, and make it a connected league, and have all 32 teams in the NFL and other leagues beyond that take advantage of what we can be doing together. And so stay tuned for that, because I think there's some exciting things that we're gonna be able to announce.
I think the cooperation between all these different companies that are coming together ultimately leads just to a better fan experience overall. So I think we all win when all of us continue to play well in the sandbox. But look, I will say this: one, thanks to Brian and Ken and Verizon and Cisco on joining us today, and thank you to Larry and all of the tag team who are putting on a fantastic tech summit for this year. So thanks to everybody who joined in. Hopefully it was an exciting topic and one that you wouldn't expect to come from a banker. So I appreciate everybody's time today, and enjoy the rest of your summit.